As non-Indigenous artists in Australia, we start from a position of out-of-placeness, of externality. We may approach a place with a desire to connect with it, form a relationship, even respond creatively to it. But as performance practitioners in Australia, we need to acknowledge first our own alterity. As settler colonial whitefellas, we also feel a sense of inherited implication in the dispossession of Indigenous peoples from their lands, among other acts of cultural genocide. This positionality is complex and dense, yet we feel this is the only way to begin to become present and engage with place, with honesty. After 2.5 centuries of colonisation, there is a lot to unpack, to put it mildly. Most non-Indigenous Australians are like kindergarten children in our levels of understanding of Indigenous knowledge. Now that some of us are finally asking Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people about their perspectives and showing interest in how they perceive and relate to their environments, they often respond with, "Listen to country." Barkinge artist and environmental researcher Zena Kumston was asked in a recent forum, how can non-Indigenous artists better be allies to First Nations people? Her response was, we need everyone now to join us in caring for country, to listen with eyes, ears and hearts. Knowledge holders from other Aboriginal communities have similarly suggested an interrelation with the surrounding environment that is at once embodied through sensory perception as well as cognitive and emotional spiritual. Darug knowledge holder Professor Liz Cameron explains that from a Darug Aboriginal perspective there are 7 senses. As well as the Western familiar 5 human senses, they also include the intuitive sense, ulna, and the imaginative sense, nara. Ulna is associated with intuitive, felt, gut sensations that are considered a bodily alert signal. The sense of nara is connected to dreams and interactive observation through curiosity, creativity and play. In addition to the 5 senses of sight, smell, touch and taste, the expansive perceptual insights of ulna and nara enable us to feel, respond, connect and adapt to the environment as a literal extension of ourselves and our communities. We, the Artists of Environmental Performance Authority, are at the start of this listening and learning and wish to acknowledge that we are sensing and facilitating experiential performance walks at the periphery of this much larger temporal, spatial, cultural context. Whenever possible, we work with Indigenous collaborators to share their cultural perspectives with our audiences. We recognise the limits of our own knowledge positions and persevere with humility from this unstable and somewhat immature ground. So today we acknowledge that we're filming on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our deep respects to their elders past and present.
When developing a work, walking as a group through a new site is a key iterative practice. As we walk, we try and open as many senses as we can, including intuition and imagination, as well as others like thermoception, equilibrioception and proprioception. We value the fact that we come from different academic and performance backgrounds, including phenomenology, site-specific theatre, dance, music, and Mintanaka's body weather practice that rigorously investigates the body in relation to its environment. This informs our different foci as we share what we're noticing and suggest practices and possible performative tasks to each other that we try and finesse and then walk on. We return and walk again and notice how the place has changed since the last time we were there. We experiment with finding ideal spots for tasks that we've used in previous guided walks, like pointing in directions ambient sounds are coming from, or moving like objects in the environment. Notes are taken, written up and used as the basis for an exploration next time we visit. Quite often where we're working is over an hour from where some of us live, so not everyone is present at each encounter with the site. We use this as a productive methodology. New responses to experiences previously suggested are incorporated, so the experience is continually refined. Sometimes the development of a work may start in a different season to the performance, so we've trained ourselves to be aware that temperatures, humidity and colours in the environment may change. This can impact costume choices in terms of insulation needed, but also in terms of colour choices. Matching a costume to suit a notable flower will not be very impactful if that flower is out of season. A dance that references the movement of a particular grass seed head will be most effective when that grass is seeding. By walking through, we choose particular sections of our site to focus on specific senses and find that inviting audiences to hone in on a particular sense can provide a powerful way to experience place in a new way. Being blindfolded and guided by a partner to touch specific objects both intensifies the haptic and offers a whole new way of experiencing the world through your trust in the person leading you. This provides an interesting contrast to the experience of taking oneself on a guided touch tour when one curates the experience for oneself, being asked to touch two different objects with two different parts of one's body and noticing how one's mind reacts. An invitation to focus on sounds near and far can be deepened by the suggestion of listening to sounds that are natural or person-made, can be extended further into an imaginative exercise. Listen to how this place would have sounded 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. We also invite audiences to extend their imaginations into the future. Looking out over a dramatic view of Naarm, Melbourne City, from a nearby mountain, we suggested that in 1,000 years' time the valley below would be inundated due to climate change. We asked audience members to look closely, as it was their job to pass on to future generations what the city had been. This added a sense of urgency to the sharing that happened as participants walked on in pairs, sharing their memories of the valley. Play is an important part of our working methodology, both in terms of playfulness with each other and creating playful experiences for our audience. Old stone risers along the river become a site for a tongue-in-cheek synchronised swimming choreography. A ruined car becomes a musical instrument, played percussively with broken branches. A rocky embankment under a city bridge is the site for the slow roll of disguised bodies until a model character, dressed in an over-the-top wig made from river rubbish, calls the audience on to further adventures. Drains at the corner of Fame and Renown streets become the frame for a fashion shoot that everyone joins in. The invitation to play in a public site is infectious for many people, offering a sense of liberation from normal expectations.
We walk. We walk as bipedally locomotive bodies, one step at a time, mostly forward, but sometimes backwards, sometimes sideways. Sometimes we crawl and slide and roll, but mostly we walk as bodies of upright posture on relatively small feet planted on the ground, a miracle of balance sustained by a complex network of tensions entailing muscle, bone, nerve, sinew, and a vestibular system consisting of cochlea, semicircular canals, utricle and saccule, and external environment. We walk. Upright, with a powerful sense of vision negotiated by eyes, complex, fragile, watery systems of nerve and lens inserted into bony skulls beneath protective brows, eyes which gaze and arc to far horizons and comprehend fine details of what is closest and small, continually delineating phenomena appearing from backgrounds of visual noise. We walk. With fine, tiny bone-sensitive ears on the side of our head, vibrating in extended contact with a circular sound field, painted with constantly layering textures of environmental hum, pierced by a cacophony of discrete sounds near and far. We walk in a vague olfactory atmosphere of sense, with the structure of steam which come and go, more or less pronounced, barely detected, mostly unnoticed, mostly unnamed, sense which warn and pleasure and puzzle. We walk with the air touching our skin on ground that rises and falls, textured with softnesses and roughnesses and hotnesses and coldnesses, of tactile points and planes of air pressure and wind which contact us intimately on our exposed surfaces. We walk with senses of memory which explore the horizons and atmospheres for recognisable patterns which bring past and future to presence as legibility and understanding. We walk bringing senses of awe and wonder to all that is, that comes to us and that we touch with our meanings. We walk uncertain with senses of horror in the footsteps of the bloody, violent genocide perpetrated by our colonising ancestors and perpetuated still by our institutions. We walk with ghosts, with heavy tread and light skip and furtive shuffle, disturbing stolen land to which we do not belong and which does not belong to us. We walk in discomfort, searching for something in all that comes to us, something which might lead us, speak to us, shape us, something which might tell us how to be here. We walk, and as we walk, we encounter shifting levels and horizons and pathetic remnants of others who have walked here, other lives, other eyes, other skins, other miraculous vestibular systems, some recent, some ancient. We walk through deserted factories and industrial sites, along riverbanks and deserts and manicured gardens, through streets and fields and forests and arcades of shops, through cemeteries of shallow graves and ridges bearing deep geological scars, through rain and under eaves, through markets and sewers and drain pipes, under bridges and glassy clearings. We walk, and as we walk, we talk and we stop and start and stop again, and we walk, we sit and we lie down, and we discuss our experiences and sense and think and know and judge and value and hope and play and regret, and from our experience performance miraculates. As we walk, the place gives itself to us in what radiates and echoes from its crannies and expanses and silences, and our walk continually displaces us in the place, allows us to get out of the way and hear what emanates from the crannies and expanses and silences which speak to us. We walk in hope to hear the voices of the place, its tactile and olfactory voices in its textures and barometrics and moistures and winds and the cacophonies of its silences. And we walk again with audiences, turning and tuning them toward the place to hear with us the voices and textures and moistures of the place, because we don't know how to be here. We walk because we must, for the place, in, through, on and with the place, in an attempt to be of the place. Get in the bloody car!